This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by trainer Joe McNally over Zoom. Joe, it's always a pleasure. It's obviously good to catch up with you just before we come on to this past weekend, with the exception of the defeat to Liam. How is life treating you?
Nice to speak to you again, Andy, and good afternoon. Yeah, it's right. But yeah, mate, I'm upset, mightily disappointed, and I'm just devastated for Liam, really, on the consensus that he's been growing and developing, and well, I wouldn't say developing, but getting better and better. And each performance, he's looked better and better and better. And from a casual fan's point of view, look, he's sort of unravelled it in one night. That was maybe a 5% Liam Smith, and they say hindsight is a wonderful thing, but there was a lot of stuff and facts that I put across 8 weeks ago that wasn't hindsight, that I think should have been followed. And look, it is what it is. And you know what, we celebrated with a fantastic win in January, and you know what, we'll keep our chins up with a devastating loss, so to say. But that's the adrenaline and the highs and lows of the sport and the business side of it, really. But yeah, mate, same as usual, back to work. I've got a whole camp of fighters that need attention, and straight back to work, back into the gym, and off we go again.
Joe, there's obviously a number of things around the fight which came out afterwards, which obviously I want to get kind of more of an understanding from yourself on. And as you mentioned, kind of his camp, there's all the talk of his weight and how he ballooned up, struggling to after his injury as well. Before we come on to all of that, though, just your initial reflections on the fight this past weekend, and how you felt Liam performed and what went wrong for him specifically.
Well, it's not what went wrong. It was more the consensus. Nothing went even right either. It just wasn't Liam. There was nothing he could do. And even, you know, coaching, I've knew Liam since he was a baby, and the fights of work with him, the fights of being with him as a family member, watching him perform. It was a case of guarding him through the fight to not get hit, not to win, because Liam listens to absolutely everything you tell him. And so a fact like, I know Chris isn't the biggest puncher. He's a slashing combination puncher, but he's not a one-punch highlight reel knockout. And he's terrible at finishing fights. Beg to differ. Some people will beg to differ, but, you know, consensus of when he dropped Liam. And all you got to do with Chris is give him a lot of lateral movement off the ropes and bend above. I think he'd thrown about a 50-punch salvo and landed 2. You know, he couldn't finish Liam that early when he was fresh, and he sort of punched himself out. So it was sort of, you know, I was trying to guard him through the contest as best I could, but not to win. It was so heartbreaking, and it was hard. But Liam knew too, his whole demeanour. I think he was a bit embarrassed and ashamed, sort of a look in his eyes. I fucked up big time here. And after 2 rounds, Chris knew that. But my reflections of it is, 8 weeks before, the business and the politics that the casual fans do not see in the sport, I don't like them, but I should have followed me head instead of me heart. And it's so difficult in the situation, in a sense, that these fighters are fighting, it's prize fighting, and they're fighting for money and championship. And, you know, he's getting paid a whole lot of money, and he's getting threatened in the politics side and the business side of things, and getting his ass sued if he pulled out again, and he'll lose the fight in this. And that's just a load of bullshit. He wouldn't have lost the fight. And, you know, I'm like 8 weeks out. We need this fight the end of October, November. It's no good. And, well, you know, and the fans, I feel for the fans too, because other than the neutral fans, Chris's entourage and fans would be super happy. Liam's fans would be super devastated. But the casual fans have been conned out of a good fight, because Liam Smith was probably 8%. So the threats that were made to him is I feel for the fans too, and obviously but it's the politics and the business side of the sport, so to say, and the stuff that goes on in the background that people don't see. They just see two people rolling up. And in this game, on the politics side and business side of the sport, Andy, the coaches are the last people that these people listen to. So it makes me angry and disappointed. But, Liam's healthy. He's not wounded. And, I don't think he's finished. But at the same time, I don't want him to go too long on in the sport. And if his injury, which was quite severe and is still severe, he wasn't 100% in the, a sciatica still, he's not getting no sleep with it and stuff. He needs to contemplate his next move serious, because if that hinders his preparation, which is where the fight is won and lost, he wants to think twice about what he's going to do in the sport.
So there's a number of things there which you've mentioned, which I want to pick up on, but I just want to stick with the fight itself and mentioning how from probably round 2 onwards, you felt like you're just guiding Liam through to try and take as little punishment as possible, and to effectively, you didn't feel like he was going to win. How difficult is that as a trainer and as somebody who's as close to not just Beefy, but the family, to be in that position where you're effectively in his corner, just trying to get him through the rounds, knowing you didn't feel like the win was there for him?
Yeah, it's so frustrating and it's heartbreaking. Obviously, there's points that I've got to really, it's like, how can I put this? I don't want him to get hurt, and I've got to protect him at the same time. But studying Chris and knowing Chris, I know we can't finish that good. And I know once you give him lots of movement, I know Liam can protect himself. And Chris, you've got to really stand and hold your feet in front of him, which literally Liam done most of the night for him to catch it. So, it was obviously, we worked on things on the first fight to prepare for the worst case scenarios as well as the best case scenarios in a contest. And Liam knew everything that Chris was going to do. He just couldn't do nothing about it, because he was literally a walking zombie in there. And it was really frustrating. Chris showed us nothing new whatsoever. The casual fans might beg to differ on that, some boxing people, because I don't really look too much into social media, but people have showed me comments, people saying, oh, he's back, he's done this. I seriously beg for differ. He fought an interesting fight, as in touching Liam with the jab, go the body, whip the uppercuts in and claim him and hold him. That was it. But that was his plan in the first fight too. Just the difference is one was 100% Liam, one was maybe 8%. That was the biggest difference. That's not an excuse, by the way. That's a fact. And good luck to Chris. Liam had his magnificent victory in January, and he's just got his own back. Whatever difficulties Chris had in January, Liam capitalised on it. And the difficulties Liam had in this camp, Chris capitalised on it. Now, Liam shouldn't have went so high up in weight, but in his defence, his weight was fine when he started camp for the original date. But he done his backing. And he couldn't walk, he couldn't run, he couldn't do nothing. And his weight ballooned right up. Now, when he was due to start camp, when the 2nd of September, you got to take this, he still wasn't 100%. So he hasn't done he hasn't done no road work for this fight. It was man management on the treadmills and stuff and things like that. But, we couldn't do no core work. He couldn't do this. So he's sort of being played by the business side and the politics of the sport, in my opinion. But it's frustrating, mate. And on the night, It was about me. Liam is, in Chris's words, an old fox. He is an old fox. He's a super smart fighter. And if he had another 20%, not 100%, 20% energy, he wouldn't have got stopped. You know, there's a point towards the end of the fight, he goes to just turn Chris and claim him because Chris isn't the strongest inside. And Chris just shoves him off like a baby. That's how fucked he was. And it's frustrating, mate. It really is. But look, he's bad as swollen foot and a cut on his eye that required 3 stitches. He's fine. Obviously his pride's a bit dented, but you know, he's got to deal with that because at the end of the day, going high up in weight, controlling your weight, doing or not, it's Liam that puts the stuff in his mouth. It's him that's got to eat the shit or overeat things. So he's got himself hold himself accountable for that.
Was there ever a temptation on Saturday night, Joe? Obviously, we saw it was the referee who stepped in to stop the fight. Was there ever a temptation for yourself to pull him out of the team in the corner? Because when I was watching it, he looked deflated himself in the corner.
Well, not even I wouldn't even say a deflated. Fucking, he looked depressed. There was just, you know, it just wasn't Liam. He was looking at, when he did look at me, it was a look of like, I'm sorry. And as I've stated, if you watch the fight back, really, when Liam used the little bit of footwear he had, his legs under him, Chris punched fresher hit. He really did. And, you know, he just never had nothing under him. I think it was the round before he got stopped. I actually said to him, look, son, trying to look at me when I'm speaking to you. And I told him, I said, it's going to go 2 ways right now. He's going to stop you, or I'm going to pull you. So show me something. You know, show me you can defend yourself. And he went out and he got stopped. But even a stoppage, it wasn't a knockout. It wasn't thing. And I think Chris missed half of the salvo for that too. You know, he just, obviously Liam never even had the energy to throw a punch back. So that's a fact, and it is what it is, mate, yeah.
Just one final thing on the fight before we do touch on everything around it. Were videos which recirculated and people pointed out it looked like Liam maybe rolled his ankles at a couple of points in the fight. Did he, or is that just something which he does? Because I've seen other sides to the argument.
Yeah. So it's someone showed me it, and Liam does do that. I seen someone mentioning, Tassa Jones mentioned it. Liam's got a twitch, a habit, and he does it in sparring. He's done it in fights. It's a twitch. It's like he clicks his ankles. So when he rolls them, so this is where people are getting the wrong end of the story, that he does do that, and he does it in the fight with Chris. He mainly does it as a twitch, but when his legs are heavy, he'll twitch, and he'll kick his legs up, he'll wake them up, which you could see him doing it in the fight. That's normal to me. But when Liam rolled his ankle, it wasn't the way he twitches them. He went the other way. It wasn't 1 foot. He went over on one. I think it was a shove, you know, that he done it in, but he fell over when he done his ankle. Yeah, he fell over. So it wasn't 2 ankles. He rolled. What one was it? It was the back one. I've just actually spoke to him there. He's speaking to Nigel in Aspire in Liverpool, because after the fight, he said, you're severely sprained it. Give it till Tuesday, Wednesday. If it doesn't ease up, we'll get you in for a scan, just to make sure he hasn't torn no ligaments or nothing like that. But when he come back the corner, he said, I fucked me ankle, broke me ankle. I said, I know, seeing it. And I told him to just give it a wiggle. Obviously, in that case scenario now, you've got to look at Liverpool's own Robbie Davis against Dar Foley. You know, he went back, and with his adrenaline off getting knocked down, I don't think he realised how bad it was, Robbie, till he come out and tried to throw a punch. And when it went again on Robbie, I don't think Dar Foley even landed the shot. He just went to push away and went over. So I was like, roll it, give it a wiggle, and thing. He only went, yeah, it's good, it's okay, it's okay. And obviously with your adrenaline up there, where he hadn't snapped, but it was just swollen up, but it wasn't as twitchy does that rolled his ankle. he went over on his ankle, but the opposite way. And that's what done it, mate. Yeah, but he's not, that never, even if he was 100%, that wouldn't affected any outcome of his defeat or what. His defeat was, in Liam's words to me, was he rolled his ankle because his legs were fucking gone and he couldn't slide. You know, it's one of them things. He rolled his ankle. It's not that. But look, Chris boxed a good fight too. He boxed a good fight, and you know, I'm happy for him. I like the kid, and good luck to him.
Joe, I want to know a little bit more about kind of the weight losing process throughout camp. So as Beefy pointed out afterwards in his post-fight press conference, he had to drop 42 pounds for this fight. What was the process rather about trying to go about doing so? Because it's 3 stone he's got to lose there. And with the injury that he's had to come back from, and specifically more so, how much did he have to lose in fight week?
See, the thing is, what I'll comment on this whole scenario is, you know, it is unprofessional for fighters, especially at his age, to be ballooning up in weight and coming down and coming up. Now, to the casual fans who don't really know what they're talking about, you're always, a fighter, doesn't matter who you are, is going to drop pounds fight week, period. Chris's own self in the press conference, and you can fact check me if I'm wrong, but I can remember him saying, you know, the hardest part of the camp was I couldn't eat for 2 days before the weigh-in. That was Chris himself, because he's a big kid at the weight. Now, on Liam's behalf, I always expect me fighters to be in shape, enough shape to just lose a pound a week in camp over a 9-week period, excluding fight week. And that's more than manageable. I'd say a pound to a pound and a half. Your average person can do that, never mind an athlete. And I personally try and stick to with the nutritionist that I worked with, that with all my fighters, they can perform in camp at the optimum energy levels by losing that amount of weight. And then come fight week, you'll shift a few pounds and that's it. You won't need no saunas, this, that, all that shit that's banned and goes on. You won't have to do all crazy sweat sessions with sweatsuits on. So, you know, you're at your good weight, you know. And in Liam's behalf, what I've stated earlier in his defence story, off the injury, I don't know whether it was a bit of depression, because he's had a turbulent 6 months in his personal life, that it accumulated in him, you know, ballooning up in weight, which hence the start of camp. And this is my own self as his coach said, son, there's no way you can fight this date. You're too heavy. You're going to need an extra 8 to 10 weeks just to get the weight off. On the consensus that his back wasn't 100%, to do his road work, to put the work in to get the weight off to start camp. Now, a lot of people, this is why, like, it's a bit harsh, because his weight was good until the injury. And he's like, no, I'll do it. And he literally had to be in. I run the numbers 8 weeks out with the nutritionist with this. He had to be in a 15,000 calorie deficiency a week. Numbers, one thing in life that don't lie is numbers, and sometimes theoretically that can be contradictive because of the autonomy of the human body. But he had to be in a major calorific deficiency the whole of the camp, and fight week even worse. Now, we had check weight testing, there was 2 or 3 of them, and he hit the goals. But he hit the goals fucked, not hitting them goals, you know, full of beans. He hit the goals and he was shattered. And on fight night, only people with 2 glass eyes couldn't see that. He was fucked. And I asked for the fight to be moved. And I'm just disappointed in the people behind the promotions and shit like that should have obviously listened. And the threats that come to Liam is he'll lose the fight and getting sued and shit. It's no good, is it, mate? And the fans suffer. The fans have suffered too.
Why was there such a reluctance then, Joe, to maybe push the fight back away from Liam and obviously others who were involved in the making of the fight?
What do you mean? Sorry.
So obviously you mentioned there, you said that you'd have liked to have seen the fight get pushed back. You tried to get it pushed back, but you've mentioned kind of the legal pushback that Liam had to deal with to make sure that he was in the ring come September 2nd. So why was there a reluctance to push the fight back from, say, whether it been the promoters
so basically he pulled out of the first date with his back. All this shit that he pulled out 3 times and done this. Look, I'm only on the consensus there was one date. And he the first day at camp was when he done his back. And it was really bad. So it is, I think it's the discs is lumbar 3 and 4, the discs, but it could need an operation. I don't know, but he's going to have to get it looked at. Pressing on a sciatica nerve, it's down and this and that. And I when he rested and he come back super heavy, and September the 2nd it is now. He's at first he said the first week of August. Then they said the 2nd of September. There's 2 fight dates that can go on, which is Joe Joyce v Zhang and Liam, and they can't do 2 pay-per-view, or Tyson Fury, they were saying at one point, can't do 2 pay-per-views on the same month, and Frank Warner moved this date and we moved this date and this, that. And I said to Liam when he come, I said, you can't fight this date. And look, the facts that I got is, well, if I don't accept this date, Chris is gone. I've lost the fight. Then he's left in limbo, which the fight he got threatened with, Chris is going to fight Conor Benn, but that fight was never going to happen anytime soon, because obviously Conor's got to sort of stuff out with the board, and anyone involved in the fight, if it went ahead in Saudi, it lose all the licenses. So they're literally shooting themselves in the foot. And then the other threat was, if it changed the date, so it's when he's training, your back's fucked. You need to go and get. He can get a doctor's report of evaluation. He's injured still. It's you. Sauerland's sue Liam and the promotion and Sky for loss of earnings. That's a fact. And I said, so now I know the Sauerlands have got a broadcasting deal with Sky, so why would they sue Sky and Liam for loss of earnings? He's injured, the letters there. It's just a load of bullshit, mate. And it's disappointing, isn't it, that we could have had a cracking, Eubank Smith too, is where we've got a bit of a farce, really, haven't we?
Joe, you mentioned earlier on, you don't know what could take place next for Liam. He might have to have surgery, he might need some time away, it might mean that he doesn't step back between the ropes. I think everybody knows how proud and how tough of a man Liam is. I'm sure he doesn't want to go out on the back of this past weekend. I know you have to wait to see what all the doctor's reports come back as, but do you think we see Beefy back in the ring at least, say, once more?
Well, my consensus of him, he's had a fantastic career, and speaking to Liam, even discussing this fight and future plans, the plan was, what I wanted them to do is beat Chris again, and then if Conor sorted his stuff out, fight Conor or fight Kell, good domestic fights. Or the minute Charlo fought Canelo, Tim Tszyu, WBO champion, I think he was fighting Brian Mendoza for the WBO and vacant WBC that's coming up. The WBA becomes vacant, the IBF. So it was like, drop back down to your natural division and get a shot at a second world championship. That was the main goal. Now, if he's got to get an operation on his back, if that was the case, at 35 years old, he's got to really think if he's going to fight again. That's my opinion. And if he doesn't, his words is, and this is Liam's words, and no, I'm not shot. I've got loads left in. I ain't going out like that. And I don't think he will. I know he's too proud of a man. And he, with no injuries, he has got too much left. He beats 99% of the people out there, and that's a fact too.
Joe, just on the junior front, obviously afterwards, there's always talk about what's next for him. We're obviously already talking about the kind of Ben fight. Two things. Firstly, was ever in the post fight kind of debacle, if you will, was a trilogy fight ever mentioned amongst promoters, or how do you think a junior Ben fight does go on the back of this version that you saw?
First and foremost, the people that are doing the promotion, broadcasting, whatever. When Liam got the fight against Chris, he was the B-side. And the consensus are, which it's no thing, that was a major upset. It wasn't a major upset on our behalf. People can beg to differ that the first fight, Chris danced to Liam's tune from round one. Liam won round one by really doing nothing, but he was fresh. He had the share of round two. He was winning round three until the end and then splattered him in the fourth. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people showing me comments, Chris won the first three and then Liam got a lucky punch. What a load of bullshit. Anyone that's worth the salt in boxing knows that's a load of bullshit. Now, soon as he defeated Chris in January, even Kala and Nissa in the ring, to my own self, can we do it again? Can we do it again? And I'm like, I'm a coach, and the broadcasting team, the promotions, Eubank Smith, Eubank 2, Smith, Eubank 2, Smith, Eubank 2, and now Chris has won. There's no mention. This is what Chris should have done in December. Now we move on. Well, hang on a minute. On the record, I see it's 1-1. Some fights, and I know some fighters and fans are going to say, yeah, but it was super dominant. But now I've given you the facts. Why? 100% Liam Smith. That would have been a fantastic contest, which Liam would have come through victorious. I truly believe it. If he didn't, it would have been Junior performing out of his skin and winning on the night. But Junior's just had a heavy bag in front of him last Saturday, which made him look like the second coming of Sugar Ray Robinson, And that's me thoughts on that. And regarding Chris, where he's going to go, the reflection with Conor is, obviously, he's a lot bigger man. The problem he's got with Conor is he's young, he's fresh, he's athletic, he can punch. And I just think Chris is missing a step or two.
Joe, just a couple of things I want to get your thoughts on before we wrap this up. We never had a chance to catch up towards the back end of last week, but one of the biggest talking points of it all towards it was there was no VADA testing in place for this fight. Can you tell me why, to your knowledge, that was the case and why only UCAD testing was the process used?
Yeah, do you know what, Anne? This is another factor. I'm really glad that you've brought this up. Especially the current state of the sport with fighters popping stuff and left, right and centre. Now, I don't want this to get mixed up that I'm accusing anyone doing anything. But I actually done an interview last, I think it was Thursday or Friday. And there's one thing I said to Liam: all these high-profile fights, pay-per-view, the fans are paying top dollar for tickets. They're paying for, pay-per-view in the house. the pubs are putting it on, it's this. So you want to give them value for money and you don't want to leave no stone unturned. So in this current climate, the way all this drug testing stuff's going on, the gold standard bearing of testing is VADA. And I preferably like it 10 to 12 weeks out in this way in a championship fight. But it's a very, very high profile fight where it's generating not hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions. So if this testing is going to cost 30 to 60,000 pounds between two fighters in the promotion, it's a fucking drop in the ocean. Now, a reporter asked me about last week, what's your thoughts on everyone getting tested? I said, well, my thoughts are it's a disgrace and you should be banned for life. Whether if you can prove your innocence is another factor. But I said, well, we're going into the pay-per-view fight this Saturday with millions of pounds involved. And there's no VADA testing for this. And he go, what? And I said, that's another fact right there. It's the first thing I said to Liam when he said we're fighting. Said to the weight was one. The second one, did you get VADA testing? No. No, he never even said no at first. He sort of was like, yeah, there's testing. I said, it's the VADA testing. He was the first fight. So why not for this one? So then an individual pulled me after the interview got released and said, why did you say that? I said, because it's a fact. I said, no VADA's being in my gym testing Liam. The individual says, you don't know the facts. I said, oh, yes, I do. Here's the facts. Two, not one concern, one, not two have got to consent to doing it because it's voluntary. Anti-Doping Association, voluntary, you've got to pay for it. But they're being tested, yet off UCAD's what? Standard urine test and what? I said, they're being in wants to test Liam. You get done fight week this week, which I'll collaborate on now, how poor this testing is. And most probably after the fight. I said, so UCAD are testing. So Chris ain't getting tested. He is. Well, who off? Who off? He's a British licensed fighter. Liam's a British licensed fighter. And the fight's on British soil. Who's testing Chris? Liam's on the whereabouts with UCAD. He's being tested twice in the States. Who off? Who off? UCAD ain't going to travel the States. They ain't got the funds to. He gets tested when he lands on British soil. Same as I said before. Don't cross this that I'm saying Chris is cheating. But a fight of this magnitude, VADA testing should have been paid for. So then I get told, please don't mention it again. Well, why not? You've just told me I don't know no facts. But I do know the facts. That Liam never got tested. Of VADA. Then Liam's fucked with the weight. Makes the weight. He's lying on the bed. I comes up the room, sitting with him. 11:30 in the night time. UCAD is sitting there to urine test him. I said, never mind piss. He can't even spit.
Joe, we'll pick that back up there. I apologise for that. The Zoom just timed out on us. Yeah, you was mentioning kind of how Liam was struggling with the weight on the night before and they came in to do the drug testing.
Yeah, that's right. And then the UCAD guy's sitting there and I said, how is he meant to piss when he cannot spit and he needs to rest? It's 11:30. I've got to. So I said, okay, blood test him. Oh, he says, what? I said, blood test him. You're a drug tester. He can't piss. Take his blood. So this is the so-called UCAD. I've passed with UCAD. The guy says, oh, I'm not qualified to take blood. What type of fucking drug testing are you then? Oh, I'll have to phone the head office. I cannot take blood. And this, I'm like, this is the shit that's going on. And in the end, Liam forced the piss out, got it done, and obviously got it signed off. But just a total mockery of the sport of what's going on right now, you know. And I'm obviously someone's consented along the line for it not to be in it. So I don't know, mate. That's my personal opinion. And all this can sound sour grapes and this, that, and the other. It's borderline frustration, but facts. And there's one thing you can't beat is the truth.
Joe, how's Liam feeling since Saturday night?
Do you know what? He's okay. You know, he's obviously, I think he's wounded and I think, but I've just got off the phone to him. He's enjoying time with his girls and his family and stuff. And you know, we let the dust settle, give it, and we evaluate, speak to people, see what his injuries are, see where we're going to go. But he's cool, he's all right. I think he'd be more devastated if he was 100% and Junior had flattened him and knocked him out and given him a thing. But he's like, he hasn't beat Liam Smith. He's beat a shadow. And, you know, as I said, anyone who's worth the salt in boxing knew that wasn't Liam in there. It's not as if he grew old overnight, this, that, and the other. Look, the fight's won and lost in the gym and in preparation and going into there. I truly believe no fighter would be ever. You might get 1 or 2 fights in your career where you are near enough 100% with no niggles, no injuries. You'll always carry something, but doing what he's had to do and still having a quite bad injury, you know, he was probably 95% depleted, mate. Yeah, and look, I'll sit down with him, but I got off him before. I'll catch up with him midweek, have a bit of dinner and stuff. And he's one strong-minded, special individual. Yeah.
Joe, just a final thing to end on. I think something which caught everybody by surprise when it came out yesterday was the charges against Bomac on his travels back to the US. What did you make of that news?
I'm fucking hell devastated for him, really. But I think I was speaking to Bomac at the weigh-in, and after the fight too, he's a cracking fella. He's a top coach, and obviously I was going back to when we were talking about Terence, nothing to do with Chris, and obviously I first caught eyes on Terence when he fought Ricky Burns, and you know we were talking about how special he is, once in a generational talent, and this, that, and the other. So he's obviously been in the UK before, so it's like, can you be that naive and stupid enough to bring? I haven't seen it, but was it loaded or something, one in the chamber or something, like ready? It's like, why are you coming to the UK when there's no firearms here, unless it's obviously you're in and living another type of life? And you know, was he looking on Cap and Liam's ass? I don't know, and I think he's I don't know the diagnostics in the background of why he's done it, but it's a bit, it's just fucking lackadaisy stupid, really, isn't it? You know, but you've got to he's been here before, but the legal in America, I don't know if it was a mental lapse or something. It's just like something he does back home, you know, which they have on them for self-protection, and he's forgot. But I think, you know, I think Terence Crawford will get is the best legal representatives to get on. I don't think he's not coming here to shoot anyone, is he? It's his legal firearm, I'm assuming, and he doesn't deserve to be doing no time for it. You know, maybe give him a XYZ a ban and get him back to the UK. Yeah, 18, but you know, I think it deserves a slap on the wrist and sent home. That's it. That's my opinion on it. He's fucked up a little bit, and he'd be kicking himself in Bomac. And you know what? Good luck to him. I just hope and pray that on all his fighters he's got on their behalf, because they're going to need him in the gym. Obviously, he doesn't work on his own. He's got think there's 2 or 3 coaches that are a team similar to myself. They need Bomac there, and I hope the UK government understands the situation, give them a smack on the wrist and sent home. But unfortunately, sometimes the law enforcement and customs in this country, they're quite severe. They don't tolerate shit like that.
Joe, just final thing to kind of wrap this interview up. Obviously, you've really somewhat burst onto the scene for credit over this last year or so. And I asked you this after the Josh Taylor loss, kind of the highs that you've had, the run you've been on when you have that loss. Obviously, the lows again of Liam's fight on Saturday night. Has anything changed on that front? Have you seen any more criticisms maybe thrown your way? I haven't personally, and I wouldn't suggest any would come your way, but unfortunately, that's the boxing world.
Yeah, it is the boxing world, and I've had messages of boxing people, who I respect, all coaches all around, and I don't see eye to eye with some coaches, but from the grassroots level coaches who don't get paid up to people that like myself that are in fantastic situations and are living out of the sport as a coach. I'm in a gifted situation, and I respect everyone, and I've had a lot of messages because a lot of the shit, the mishaps, is the business side of the sport. It's the same with Josh, who's lost to Tio. His foot, he couldn't do no rollway. He should have postponed it, but he gets his back up against the wall. You don't go ahead, you lose your title and this. And people don't see that stuff in the background. And the highs and lows of the sport as a coach is the same as a fighter. It's them adrenaline dumps you get. 1 minute your endorphins are high, the next minute the rock bottom, which is why it's addictive, because we're always chasing that high. And I hate to lose, but I don't mind losing when everything's being done correctly. I don't mind that, because you can walk away without frustration, without your head held high. Now, the people that are given criticism, the 1 minute, I've seen it with so many coaches in this country, your Peter Furies, your Joe Gallagher's, your Adam Boots, Mick Conlan defeats Shea McGuigan's, and Billy Nelson's, fucking, the list goes on and on and on. Jamie Moore, 1 minute they're the best, the next minute, they're shite, they haven't got a clue. They're all fucking fantastic, world-rated coaches, every single one of them. And the country, thankfully, has got in abundance world-rated coaches in Liverpool too, not just myself. You got your Paul Stevensons, your Robbie Butlers, Dave Tonks, even the lads in Kirkdale, Stephen Ark, they're all fantastic coaches. Man, it's boxing, it's the sport. Opinions are like arseholes, everyone's got one. And we're in an unfortunate world that this shit and social media and the comments, these arseholes, with most probably 1 followers and most probably 2 friends in the labs, are the ones with the opinions. And every coach, every fighter, they should be respected in the sport. Same as Chris Eubank, I think he's a fantastic kid. I think he's brilliant. I like his demeanour. I think he's a good fighter. Do you think he's bastard? Yes, I do. But he's a fantastic athlete. And I think he's a genuine nice person from a genuine nice family, and he's a credit to the sport of boxing. He lives and breathes it and works hard, and he's reaping his rewards. A lot of pressure on his shoulders, and you know what, mate? I'll ride with the highs and lows, with the comments. The truth of it is, I don't give a shit about negative opinions. They can take it, swallow it, stick it up their arse and do what they want. It's real boxing people who care about them. If they know what they're talking about, they won't be criticising anyone. That's my opinion on that.
Right, Joe. I appreciate you jumping on and doing this interview. I imagine, you'd have preferred it to have been in much happier circumstances, but yeah, I appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the rest of your week, and obviously the fights ahead for the guys and the girls in the gym. And yeah, thank you for speaking to me in Boxing News.
Andy, pleasure as always, mate. And I'll catch you soon, real soon anyway. And God bless, mate. You have a splendid day.
You too, mate.
Okay.
Joe, appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
Take care, mate. God bless.